Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld. Hope you all had a good Christmas, and today we're going to take a look at some of the features in Insurgency that I'd like to see in Battlefield. I've been playing a lot of this game recently, and I've got to say it's pretty damn fun, so if you want to see more of this game, then by all means let me know in the comment section below. Insurgency is basically a hardcore FPS game which has a lot in common with Battlefield, but by comparison is far more realistic. It's a game built on the Source engine, so I wouldn't say it's quite as slow and clunky as games like Arma, but in many ways it's just as immersive. Now, I should point out that I'm not really an expert at this game, but I do have a pretty good idea of how the game works after quite a few hours of playtime. Insurgency has a very steep learning curve, and although it's a fairly straightforward game, you really need to think tactically and make use of your equipment and the environment to survive. For those of you who watch my videos on a regular basis, you'd know I'm a big fan of realism in FPS games, and you'd also know that I'd like to see more realism in Battlefield games. I'm not saying I'd like to see all of Insurgency's features added to future Battlefield games, but I think these 5 features would at least be a very good start. But anyway, to kick off my list at number 5 is True Night Maps. Now, I talked about this in my Arma 3 comparison video, but being that night maps are such a key feature of Insurgency, I really think it's worth bringing up again. Like in Arma 3, you have to use flashlights or night vision goggles to be effective on night maps in Insurgency, which in turn have their own pretty dramatic weaknesses. Many of the maps in Insurgency have both a day and a nighttime mode, which drastically changes the way maps play out. This seems to me like a really easy way to create a ton of new content without creating entirely new maps, so I really hope the devs take this one on board and we see true night maps in BF games sometime in the near future. And coming in at number 4 is a point-based loadout system. The loadout system in Insurgency is a bit more like COD than it is like BF4, with a point-based system which makes you trade off certain upgrades for others. For example, the extra points you need to run with a set of night vision goggles might mean that you need to sacrifice armor-piercing rounds, heavy body armor, or some of your weapon attachments. You can even choose to sacrifice a secondary weapon or even your primary weapon to assign points to other areas. I think this makes a lot of sense because it means that you have a lot more freedom to create a custom loadout, but you'll never be able to create a completely overpowered loadout. So coming in at number 3 is a feature I've mentioned a few times in previous videos, faction-based weapons. Faction-based weapons weren't in BF4, but they aren't new to Battlefield. They were in BF3 and they're gonna be in Hardline as well. Unlike these games though, Insurgency takes faction-based weapons to the extreme, meaning that you don't have the option of playing with the other faction's weapons at all. In Insurgency, the security team's weapons tend to be a lot easier to control than the insurgent weapons, but by the same token the insurgent weapons tend to hit a bit harder. There's something awesome about Insurgency knowing that each team has its own unique advantages, and I'd love to see this transition over to the Battlefield franchise, at least in some small way. And coming in at number 2 is 3D VoIP. I think one of the biggest issues with Battlefield 4 especially is the lack of communication and teamwork within the game. Insurgency solves this problem to a degree with its 3D VoIP, which basically allows you to talk to other players that are within a certain distance. Obviously, you can still talk to people through TeamSpeak and through all the other normal ways of communication on PC, but the push-to-talk function allows you to easily talk to other people in your team who aren't already in your party. The trade-off of this though is that nearby enemies can hear your VoIP too, which adds yet another pretty important tactical element to a game that has very little player recognition to begin with. And finally, coming in at number 1 on my list is realistic recoil. Since the patch to visual recoil in BF4, I think the game hasn't really felt the same because the recoil is so easy to handle now for an experienced player. In Insurgency, you really need to control your recoil because compared to BF4, the guns in this game kick ridiculously hard. Larger caliber weapons kick noticeably harder than smaller caliber weapons, so you really don't see that much run and gunning with battle rifles and LMGs like you do in BF4. I don't think weapons need to kick quite as hard in Battlefield as they do in Insurgency, but like I've said time and time again, there needs to be a noticeable difference in recoil between calibers, and Insurgency just nails this perfectly. But anyway guys, that just about wraps up my top 5, so let me know what you think, and let me know what you think of Insurgency in the comment section below. If you own a PC and you haven't already tried this game out, definitely jump on Steam and pick it up because it's not too expensive, and it's well worth it. Over the next few weeks, I'll be making a few similar videos for a whole bunch of other shooters I've been playing lately, so stay tuned for that and feel free to suggest any other games you'd like me to check out. Until then though, as always, if you like what you see, please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and if you haven't already, please check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in a playlist in the description below. But until next time, see you later, and have a good one.